Anyways, something for the governance committee.
Not
Well, actually,
bad.
executive committee, it's executive committee, because the governance committee is
They
part of the
order stuff
executive.
from me and they put it in the refrigerator in the break room.
Yeah, it is.
I'll embrace it.
Mhm.
But I like the black cocoa coffee.
Too soon?
Too sweet.
Okay, well,
If there's such a thing.
all ready? All right, everyone, I call to order the counties of Warren and Washington Industrial Development Agency Executive Park Committee meeting on February 5th, 2025 at 9 a.m. Roll call, Ally.
Ron Toppling,
Here.
Tim Robinson.
Here.
Dan Bruno.
Here.
Juan Gonzalez.
Here.
We have a quorum. We have 4 out of 5.
Great. On the meeting packet, everybody received the minutes of the January 8th, 2025 IDA Executive Park meeting. I would entertain a motion to accept those minutes. Dan, second. Tim, any discussions? All in favor? Aye. Any abstain? All right, motion carries. Minutes are approved. Reports of committee, park chair update, Dan.
I have nothing to report. You get it further down here. So,
Great. All right, take us over, Chuck. Canal site project updates.
Okay, on the projects, I have 4 quick updates. One, as a reminder, is with our water source issue. The map plan report we currently have, is assuming what the water come from the village from East Street. The town has come to us and suggested they have some sources, so we had Labella do an investigation on those sources. Lo and behold, the East Street option is the least expensive. We've reviewed that with the town agrees. So now we're locking into the East Street supply for water for the site. Any questions? That's a very high level summary. I can go much deeper, but that's.
Just curious what total cost is gonna be. Do we have any?
The cost in the map plan report was, I think about $2.8 million. And majority of that was the cost of the tank. There are 2 components. So the piping already is into the site. We have to do some maintenance for the East Street piping.
Okay.
We have to do investigation if there's any issues further down the pipe, that some pressure issues. And so that's one of the issues that Labella is further investigating. But the main issue is the tank, this 340,000 gallon tank for proper water pressure and fire suppression system. You have the tank, you have the pumps, that's the majority of the cost.
Okay, and then the grant.
That covers it.
Within the
Right,
fast
everything,
lane.
All
including
covers
all
it.
the Study.
Completely covers
There's
it.
No out of pocket.
Correct. Everything right now is within our expected cost structure, unless we learn that there are other implications on the village's water system that have not yet been recognized or planned for. And I don't know, Bob, if you have anything to add to that?
No, it's certainly my recollection on all of that.
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Second issue is we're working on the water district formation. It is a legal issue. Kara and working with other attorneys put together a very nice list of all the steps to go through. I don't know, Kara, if you want to comment on that list. I mean, there must be at least 10 different steps we have to go through.
Yeah, there are few steps. Most of them are legal in nature as far as posting, publications, etc., filings with various state agencies in the county. If the quickest it can go through is 2 meetings. If that's how the town handles it. Otherwise, I think it might be 3 meetings if they do the public hearing separately or have 1 meeting for discussion and then 1 meeting for action. But the one critical piece is that we've got to connect the village and the town together to get their intermunicipal agreement together. And I think that both of them are looking to us to kind of push that issue forward.
Right. And there's a good air of cooperation. going
Yeah,
on.
they already have an agreement in place for another district that's similar to this, so they're gonna use that as their format, if you will, but we've got to kind of push them to
Yeah.
move forward on this.
So we'll be pushing, that's a critical path, that plus the map plan report itself and making sure it's stabilized. And there's that one investigation I talked about. So we get the map plan report done and then we go through the legal process and we're done. So we just gonna take time, and obviously we want to move it along as quickly as possible because we'd like to release the bids for construction.
So there's one public hearing period. There's a time frame to meet with that, but it's like 10 days to 30. So there's not really any waiting periods because we're the sole user and occupant owner of the property. So we're the only one getting noticed of it. So we'll all kind of.
This, by the way, is a list. So as I said, there are about 10 different steps, so there's a lot going on, but we'll navigate. We'll push it along, I guess. So anything else, Kara? Okay, the third issue, as I mentioned, was the map plan report, and to get that wrapped up, we're gonna talk with Lorella about that tomorrow. The Village has reviewed the map plan report, and their consulting engineer, Sean Doty, has provided comments, and those comments will be incorporated in Labella's update, and then hopefully we'll have a stabilized map plan report. The fourth item, also a legal issue, as you might recall, our substation tower we need to transfer the ownership to us. National Grid owns it because when the property was transferred from GE WCC, National Grid requested ownership. WCC said, fine. That's very unusual because within a substation area, usually the site owner owns everything in there. National Grid has come back to us and said they want to transfer ownership from them back to us. So Kara's been working with the National Grid attorney. There is legal work in process. From there, maybe I'll just turn over to Kara if there's any additional update on that legal work.
Yeah, so they've provided us with an amendment to the easement agreement there's an original agreement, there was an amendment to that agreement, and now we're amending the amendment for clarification purposes because the drawing that was included on the first amendment was like almost kind of like a hand drawing type scenario. So now they've created a formal drawing, really identified where this demarcation line as far as who's responsible for what, and really clarified that amendment. So I went back to Helena yesterday. There's a typo just in our name and we're kind of going through it now. I don't have any issues with the draft as it is. It's really just a clarification of the First Amendment to say, this is what we have, this is what, not relying on some drawing that's not really.
And the whole trigger on this was that meter fuse thing that happened last year. That's where there was discovery of who owns what, and frankly, this is cleanup. What's
Yeah.
nice is it's cleanup before we sell the site. So the next owner is gonna be appreciative that we've cleaned up something that frankly, they don't have to deal with.
So just for clarification, this was all late breaking yesterday afternoon. We don't want to push anything to the full board this meeting. We just want to give the heads up. Once we get Dan, Bart Chair circled in on this and we have some time to look at it and make sure that this is exactly what we want. We'll get this for next month's meeting for approval to push to the full board to get this closed out. So Dan, this is all late breaking. We'll get the information to you.
That's fine.
Yeah, the emails just came through yesterday, actually. Okay, that's it on the project updates. Any questions before I go on the maintenance updates? On the maintenance updates, Dan and I have been on site looking at the tree situation. I did have a discussion with Everett about his ability to get the trees down before he starts the landscaping with mowing, et cetera. He is committed to it. He has said that he's going after the trees on the hill behind where we have the offloading the train, and he's gonna go after the trees in the southern stormwater basin. And I asked him 3 times, are you sure? Because if you're not, we want to let an RFP go. And he's committed. He said he's gonna do it. At this time, I trust him, and I
This
think
is a
we,
good time of year to get this
this, and
done.
he knows that too. Yeah. And so, every time we go on site, we should see a few less trees. If not, then we'll revert back to releasing RFP. The second thing, is a snow removal issue. It appears to be under control, but it could be a future issue. As background, we own, in the Block 8 Way, we own a section of it that's in Kingsbury. And then Fort Edward has ownership from the Kingsbury line into our gate. And as far as snow removal, what's been happening is when snow comes, Canal Corp is there first, and they actually go ahead and do Lock 8 Way and sort of relieve the town from doing it. Problem is, well, what they've been doing, the Canal Corp is going past Lock 8 to our gate. They do that extra half mile. Well, they haven't been doing it lately. Kiewit calls me and I call Canal Corp, and the guy was very apologetic, said, I'm understaffed and sorry, I can't do that extra plowing. Okay, it's not your responsibility. Thank you for helping us in the past. I call the town, I say, hey, this is your responsibility. And the superintendent was not very pleased. He said he'd go look at the site, and I explained to him that Kiewit could help, but they were concerned about going on the town road and doing it for the town. So he goes to see the site the day right after, there's a snowstorm and the roads are slick. He goes, looks at it, and Kiewit's out there taking care of the roads. So he calls me up and he says, well, Kiewit's doing it. I'm okay with it. We're not doing it. And I said, okay, well, thank you for the update. I have not bounced back with him. Obviously, Kiewit can help us while they're on site, but once they're off site, we have an issue with the snow removal. So I just wanted to make you aware of it. I think it's under control. If we need to get a little more assertive with the town, we can, but at this time, I'm not recommending we get
We'll
more.
find out tomorrow. We're supposed to get a bigger storm.
3 to 5 inches, yes.
But again, not an issue as long as Kiewit's there, which we know is this year and possibly
That part.
winter of next year.
What's that?
I was gonna say, if it's truly a town road, I'm not sure I'd let it go, but I'm not the IDA either. Because
Well,
if they shirk responsibility now,
Right.
Well,
Is that
truth,
a-
truth be told, going a little deeper, as we look at selling the site and some prospects, this is an issue we have to talk with the town about their commitment to make sure there's proper snow clearing to the gate. And we can still have that discussion quietly, because right now we're frankly, as you know, dealing with the village and town on an issue. So now's the time to informally start working on it. I didn't really want to pick a fight with the superintendent.
Oh,
Not
get the
quite.
time.
They
Yeah.
should, they need to understand that it's their responsibility. No
Agreed.
matter who does it right now.
Oh,
So down the road.
He
when they're
knows
gone-
it's his responsibility, and he said blatantly to me, I'm not gonna do it.
Well,
Only because Kiewit was doing it and.
Because Kia was doing, but again, we can talk with the town supervisor, perhaps
Mhm.
escalate it a little bit and start working on this.
Well, that's a taxpayer thing. They've got people waiting to do, they're on the job, they're paid by taxpayers to take care of the roads.
Yep,
That's,
and the future property
Pays
owner
for it.
will be a taxpayer. So yes, yeah. So again, Juan, I thought it'd be good to alert you to the issue. If you want us to take further action, we can, but we'll start by talking with the town supervisor.
So right now it's getting done. Kiewit's is doing it. And to push an issue
Right.
that is a non-issue is wasting
Yeah,
energy. and
point is,
money.
it becomes more difficult down the road. Someone else has done it, and you come to them and say, hey, you need to do this now. What? What do you mean?
Because that someone is gone, there's
Yeah.
that forcing function there is
Yeah.
that someone's gone. It's not that someone decided to
As
stop.
long as they understand that
Right.
it is their responsibility.
Yes,
Oh, he
I believe
knows,
they do.
he knows it's his road.
yes.
And he was just frankly a little belligerent and saying, I'm not gonna do it.
and you only have one arm.
One and a half. But you're aware of the issue. We'll start with the town supervisor and go from there. Okay? You okay?
I noticed you talked to Kiewit about parking in between the buildings.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, thank you for bringing it up. Kiewit was parking, some of their employees were parking between the two buildings, space that's not leased. So we engaged them and they corrected the
They're
situation.
also parking in front of a large building, 42,000 square feet. Right in front of the.
What they do sometimes when they have talking about the tractor trailer, are they parking employee cars or
Hmm,
employee cars or tractor
No.
trailers?
trailer.
The tractor trailer, yeah, the tractor trailer exits, it will sometimes park in front of the building, typically temporarily as they transition their vehicles. Between the buildings, they were parking, the employees were parking their vehicles all day long. So those employee parking, have been moved to a different part where they're leasing the land. So we'll have to check on the
I
trailers.
mentioned that at the last.
Yeah.
meeting.
Right, yeah, that's
And
why,
that's been solved.
I didn't have heartburn about it, so to speak, but it is,
Yeah.
not part of their lease.
correct. There's another area that, that's being addressed, and that is at the rail spur that's inside our gate. At the very end, between the rail spur and the southern stormwater basin, there's some storage there. Contacted Kiewit and they're taking care of that too. So they're, they've been quietly, not maliciously, but just sort of plopping down where they thought they could plop down and we've had to correct them. They've been responsive. Any other issues on maintenance? Anything else, Dan? Jeffrey Maringo? Okay. On the tenant side, site's been very busy. Kiewit has a lot of trucks going in and out, both construction materials and the soil storage. There's been a lot of grain activity overall besides the snow removal issue. Everything's going well. Last week, we had our appraiser on site for a tour. Myself and John Davison gave a tour of both the canal side site and the adjoining WCC property. That went very well. And the appraiser is working on doing the appraisal. I don't know if we'll have it for our next board meeting. If not for the February board meeting, we'll certainly have it for the March board meeting.
So can I ask a question? on
Sure.
WCC's, helping us pay for that appraisal?
That is not, they are not, because that appraisal is only on our property.
Okay,
It's not on
it
their
was
property.
just to
Now-
allow them access to.
Well, you know, as you're, like, for example, the track, there's 4 miles of track. We only own about a third of the track because of all the switches. WCC owns 2/3 of the track. So when we do the tour, we make sure, particularly for the party interested now, that they see the whole track. And if there is a deal for the property, there will also need to be a deal with WCC.
Well, will it be part of the appraisal for them?
No, our appraisal will only be for our portion of the track.
So,
Now, whether WCC goes ahead and get their own appraisal, that's gonna be their business. That makes sense?
yeah, it does. They probably should do it if they're, if they're gonna look to sell the whole parcel.
Agreed, and they have verbally said that if the site has a buyer, that they too would be interested in participating in the sale of their property.
It's gonna hold us up hostage if their numbers way out. of
Well,
whack.
yeah, and as remember, this is sort of what we inherited when the property was
Yeah.
transferred. They did not transfer all the property to the Fort Edward Economic Development Corp. They retained some property, so, the situation is as it is.
Right.
Yeah, and for any buyer to be aware of and to deal with accordingly. And they are aware of it, of course, any prospective buyer. And of course, our real estate agents make sure prospective buyers are aware of it too. And there's also, not to go too deep, but remember, there's the option for the property that goes between the site and the canal. And that is a WCC option. So any prospective buyer of the site had to deal with 2 issues: the rail ownership and buying out that option. Yeah,
Is
The only value that
our
option
option.
is,
it's WCC option to buy it.
Oh,
They have an option.
that option is worthless except for the access.
Access to connect.
Yeah, it's all wetlands, so it's not. valuable land. There's an access issue. Okay, and then finally, we continue to have parties interested in the site. We had a new party approach me this Monday, had a talk and referred the person to Berkshire Hathaway and Bob Sears as the point person. So there continues to be interest, all informal. We do not have any formal interest at this time. So with that, that's the report on canal side, unless there are any further questions.
well, it's a Korean company.
Yeah, we really can't talk about that at this time.
Okay.
It's too early.
Okay.
Okay, so Airport Industrial Park, switching gears. The Ferguson Lane Extension, that's the new name we're giving that area of about 26 acres at the end. Oh, by the way, here, let me help. I have a map.
Hey,
I'll ask him to take one and pass it along. Actually, I'll take one too, sorry. I think we have enough. Yeah, Ally and I can maybe share. I printed, I believe, times. So this, does everyone have one okay? Here, there's one I can share with Ally.
no problem.
Oh, there's plenty? Okay, excellent. So let's talk about the map for a moment, just for bearings. This is a map that we put in the RFP for the appraisal, and it's a map that's in the appraisal. But what I've added here are those little blue text boxes, which shows the 5 areas we've had approved, appraised. And the first section is the number of acres, and then the red is the valuation in the appraisal. So the first thing I want to really talk about is the yellow area, which is the developable land, 26 acres rounding, 17 developable rounding under the prior wetland rules. Just as a note, the appraisal we had done was as of November 1st. And as you are aware, there are some new rules that came in effect in January. So those rules have not been embedded into this appraisal. But the first point I want to make for this yellow area is that you might recall we had an interested party in the site. The party has contacted us and is no longer interested in the site. The party has found another site within Warren County and actually might be an applicant for us for an incentive package. But this area now, we do not have any prospective active discussion going on for that particular site. And we'll talk a little bit later about engaging Berkshire Hathaway and things that we'll be doing to further market that site. As far as the appraisal itself, you'll also see the green areas. The green areas are the heavily impacted wetland areas. You'll see there in the blue box, the acreage, and then you'll see the value that is in our appraisal. And again, just to let you know, that is based upon the old wetland rules because the appraisal is as of November 1st. There's good reason to believe with the new wetland rules, there could be further impact on the valuation of these properties. The appraiser, as you may have seen in a report, has figured out the best and highest use, which basically came down to basically tree farming activity, nursery activity, and obviously not very highly valued. But what's good as we look to do disposition of these pieces of property, we now have a value, and if we talk with any prospective buyer, we the committee need to come up with a recommendation what the valuation should be. We'll go to the board for full approval, and then our real estate agents and us can work accordingly. And just as a reminder, Berkshire Hathaway has been hired to help us with the yellow property. The green property is not part of our agreement, Berkshire Hathaway. So if there is a party interested in any of those wetland impacted areas, they would work through myself and Ally and Kara. Just like frankly, we've done in the past. So before I go into talking about the sales and marketing activity, are there any questions about the information presented so far? There is the issue of this committee recommending to our full board how we should list the value of these properties. The recommendation is to do the appraised value. So looking for board comment and possible concurrence on using these appraised values as the values at which we list these properties.
How long have we owned these wetland locked area? Decades?
Yeah.
Is that a fair
When
assessment?
was Airport Industrial Park 2 formed?
70s,
Yeah,
80s?
70s.
So I am highly recommending that we lock these prices in and work to get these disposed of. We've had decades to try to make money and try to create vast economic development, and with the increased issues with wetlands in New York State, it's not gonna happen. So it's time to fully dispose of these properties within the guidelines of the laws that within the IDA. There you go. That's my thoughts.
There's a trade deal in New York State with those lands. Is there a potential for trading this off to make these saleable?
Well, we did about a year ago, the past maybe in the spring, we had the Wetland Trust in. They're a nonprofit that specializes in taking properties. They have toured our property and they said thanks, but no thanks. Now I'm tiptoeing into the sales and marketing side. We do have a neighbor that's expressed interest in the two $1,000 lots, the top there, the 2.7 acres. So, and the person has called me, have not done anything with the call at this time, made the person aware that we're having an appraisal. So we do have somebody who has expressed informal interest and more to come. But the two larger wetland impacted areas, we do not have any prospects, and we were thinking that we would notify all our neighbors that we are looking to dispose of these areas. We'd have now a proposed price, and we'd see if someone would be interested in buying these other areas. And we'll circle back with Wetland Trust. We'll push it. I mean, our goal here is to no longer be in the land business park. So we will, now that we have the appraisal, now we can aggressively work on the issue. So are we okay with these valuations?
Agree.
Green, yeah.
Well, green and yellow, both valuations, actually, I think that even for the listing, Berkshire Hathaway have asked that, they have a number they go public with.
Let's stay with the green.
Okay.
Make a decision there, and then we can move with the yellow and green.
Yeah, their opinion on it. So, yeah, so for the green, we'd like to go with the appraised values. And we'll go to the full board at the next meeting because
We're paying, special assessment.
we are. That's one reason why we've actually merged some of the lots.
Tim said yes, Dan seconded.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we'll take it to the full board with pointing out that the park committee has recommended we go with these values.
Done, good.
Okay. So let's go back to the yellow area. Perhaps Lou and Bob would like to talk a little bit about those properties and the valuation and listing price for those properties.
Yeah. So we reviewed the appraisal that came in, use some comps, me and Bob discussed it. There were a couple of comps that necessarily we didn't think were the best comparisons, but as it sits with the capital improvements to bring the electric and the water and those things, we think it's a fair market value of 150,000. Again, that being said, based on the 17 acres usable, 17.7 acres usable with the old guidelines, that's the only caveat we, as a consensus, had, just because with the new regulations, it could impact usable, which makes it, the value could be impacted. And that's the only thing we want to make sure that we all understand, that we go to market with this, when they actually go to the planning and do the updated on the wetland impact, it could impact the usable acreage, which would ultimately impact the overall value. But
as far as the listing, better to stay high.
yeah,
And then
yeah,
come off.
and it's backed by the appraisal at 150, as is.
They start at 150 and
Yep.
if they find that,
Yeah.
only 10 of the acres are usable now because of the 300-foot setback from wetlands.
Correct.
Then.
Then we,
value would
yeah.
have to be reassessed.
Well, then we would ask for their proof, and you know what I mean, if they have a updated delineation, bring it back to the committee and the board, explain their positioning and have that discussion at that point.
Is there bad?
Also,
Go ahead.
go ahead. Also, what we're looking at is selling the whole thing at once,
Yeah,
not subdividing.
Yeah.
So whoever goes there, they might want to put a 25,000 square foot building there, that might be about it. But if that cost of 150,000 for a 25 to 40,000 square foot building is not bad. And then they can bring in the utilities and everything else that they need. Bob, while we're on that, what is the setback with the new regulations?
With what?
With the new regulations for wetlands?
I don't know that number off the top of my head, but I do know with this lot, there could be some wiggle room because this is already deed restricted lands when it comes to the wells.
Right.
I assume you're referring to the DEC wetland regulations on it.
Wetlands that, New York State just imposed upon.
Yeah, they changed their criteria there that, again, I still think there could be some wiggle room. I don't quote me on that completely because this was all sorted out with the Army Corps of Engineers ahead of time.
So just to go back, Tim, you mentioned 300 feet. I heard it was 100. So. 'cause
Here's the other thing on it, we're not dealing with a single wetland, we're dealing with multiple smaller wetlands.
Yes,
That the 7.5 acre threshold may not hold any merit here because we're dealing with individual wetlands. But the problem is I don't know where those wetland limits go as they cross over the property lines.
okay.
And I don't, I know the DEC is not ready or prepared to handle some of their mapping at this point either. So I know staff is trying to figure out how they're gonna implement this.
And there's also an issue of vernal pools. The setback distance has increased significantly with the vernal pools. So that's gonna be,
Somebody's gotta put septic first.
right, that site needs to be further evaluated. Yeah, so,
And that's very limited on the springtime of year for the vernal pool determination.
right.
2 points from me. First one is we're selling whole because if we parcel this off, then we're on the hook for creating a shared road or there's some.
That's part of the reason. Yes, just as a reminder, that road in there is a paper road on the map where it's a white road. That's basically where it ends. If people start expressing interest and we agree to start selling those lots, or the prospective buyer would have to build a road. So yes, we are looking not to have to build a road, and also just think for the market, there's just more attraction. There aren't a lot of 26 acre industrial zone sites in the area, so hopefully that in itself would be an attraction from the market perspective. So it's both offensive and defensive.
And then I would say also, you gotta remember, you have to bring in the electric, water to an individual user. That cost is gonna be significant for a smaller parcel.
And so my second question is off of that is there value for the IDA to put money to get the utilities to the site? Based off of the gap between as is and land improvements, I'm not seeing value
Yeah.
there.
In the appraisal, I think the basic cost, the estimated cost was 115,000. There wasn't, it would just be added on to the value. I think with the utilities there, it only went up to 265, which is your cost.
Right.
You know what I mean? There was a caveat, if a private entity went in there, it might be cheaper for them. But I mean, to put that in there, it's not gonna bring up the value where it's gonna add that much more to it, from a total value to the property. It just increased it by the cost.
Got it.
You're
Am I-
You're absolutely right. Also, there's a hidden topic here that we haven't addressed and we still haven't addressed. Not because no one knows. What is the effect of the wetlands? We got 17 acres we're playing with here now. It could be less than that. So why go ahead and stick your neck out and make the improvements when in fact you might be down to 12 acres instead of 17.
Great. That's all I have.
So Bob, we're gonna be relying upon you quite a bit to give us the straight answers because sooner or later, that's the.
Some of it's gonna come down to, as the agency improves their jurisdictional mapping, is how much this is gonna be impacted. Because like I said, the one thing I can't do is know exactly where those wetlands go over the property. Is that contiguous wetland now going to trigger that area requirement, or that minimum area for jurisdiction? That we'll have to figure
We
out.
might have to invest into another updated study, but not recommended at this time. Let's give this a little time on the market, see what happens.
Exactly.
What are you recommending the price be for?
As is.
As is.
Yeah,
As
as
is,
is, yeah.
and then find somebody who will work with us and will put in a complex that will be sufficient for maybe 12 or 14 acres instead of 17.
All right, any other questions from the board? The committee?
So we're,
Yeah, we have a plan, we have a marketing strategy once we get pricing and things like that.
Okay, so we're good at the 150, is that what we're hearing? So we'll recommend that to the full board. Okay, perfect transition, let's go into the marketing plan. Well done.
Yeah, yeah, so, we had a call to discuss the next steps, once we get pricing together, we're gonna actually target all the neighboring properties, hand delivering, and I don't know if you want me to go into it,
Go
the
for it.
letter, the IDA is gonna prepare letters, 2 letters, one for the 100, the 725.8 acres, and in addition, we'll bring, and deliver, some, almost like a marketing letter for those additional wetlands that are lacked, to give those neighboring, properties an opportunity for both those sites. In addition, we'll update our marketing, and then we can go to market with a clear pricing on it, which tends to attract more. So, Bob and I will team up and we're gonna track all this, so that we make sure we hit everyone, and everyone we don't hit, we'll actually do direct marketing, direct mailers to.
I know most of the people over there, I've got them before, so I'll have access and I'm gonna hand deliver. And have an audience with
Yeah.
most of these people.
Yeah.
Also around LoopNet, we're on all the major
Yeah.
industrial sites. And, so there's gonna be a consistency involved. And there'll be a backup, and we'll constantly be in touch with those people who we think might work for the site.
Okay, yeah.
And we might even go down to Saratoga County, there's a Saratoga IDA. They might have someone down there that might be not going to Saratoga, but might be coming up here. And so, and also in Albany, we can also network with those people. So we just want to be out there, want to be pervasive, consistent, and move forward.
Any additional questions about the sales and marketing? Okay, that's a wrap for the Airport Industrial Park update.
Bob, and we'll give you the marketing also, so you'll be aware.
Great. I got 2 additions there for Canal Side that I just want to make sure get into our minutes. The first is the 2026 bridge replacement. There's been no updates since our last board meeting, so I want to make sure the team knows that. And then for grant funding, the HUD, which is the federal grant, that grant did get caught up in the exec order of pausing grants, unpaused, repaused, paused again. So we are tracking that. We have no concerns at this moment. We did receive our 4th quarter reimbursement from HUD. Remember, that grant was full at $1 million, so we don't currently have major expenses. We'll do a reimbursement at the end of the 1st quarter, and we'll keep the team appraised. But currently, no substantial expenses to that grant, and we're just tracking the stop and pause and go from DC. And that is all I have for my 2 items. Good. All right. Any last mulligans for Canal Site or Airport Industrial Park from the team? All right, ongoing business. Do we have any ongoing business?
Hopefully.
Nothing we have to talk about at this time.
Wait.
I will say we have we could have 2 applications for acceptance at our upcoming board meeting. One came in last night at 5. We're gonna start the completeness review. One came in a couple weeks ago and it's been a little rough on the edges. We've been modifying that. So there is a chance both applications will be ready for acceptance in February, and then we'll do the finding statement for presented to the board for approval in March. So more to come on that. So that's an ongoing business update. Yeah.
And our next New York State Economic Development Council conference is next week in Albany, 2 days. Chuck and I will be there, and we do expect to get an update on wetlands, and we'll get that pushed out to the team and any other great briefs that we have. So, all right, final chance for ongoing business. Anybody? All right, new business. Nominations. So we have four positions, right? We have the chair, or three positions. We have the treasurer, and we have the secretary. Any other?
Vice Chair.
Vice chair. And we have the vice chair. So currently, I'm the chair, Tim's the vice chair slash treasurer, and then Tricia is our secretary and the park chair. And we'll do the park chair here.
Nominate all of these.
Oh, I'm second that.
Say that again.
They nominated and they seconded it. That's pretty quick.
Wait, I didn't get to hear that. I was gonna vote for somebody else. I had my vote.
The vice chair and treasurer should be split off.
Should be split up. I agree.
And I would like to continue to be the treasurer, but I'm not in line to take over. Should one decide to resign tomorrow or fill out his term, that's fine. I won't have the time to do that.
So do we have a individual that's able to be the vice chair and the duties are very light, other than coming to the executive park committee? Should I win the lottery, you will probably be asked to be the chairman.
It'll cost
You got 5 years left.
Five-year plan.
Yeah, you got.
Who else is on board? That's not here. We can-
Tricia, but she's secretary, yeah.
Good move. Dick.
Wait, she's the secretary, but she like, why didn't,
Yeah, it's here.
isn't she, then she would be on executive? committee.
She's on the exec, or, yes,
She's just not here today.
Oh, okay.
yeah. I know you're busy, it won't add any more to your load, it just allows us to separate.
I can do vice chair, but
Yeah.
I don't know that I'm ready to step into be the chair.
No, you only,
Yeah,
I got you for 3 to 5 years.
all right.
As long as the board, wants that.
Okay.
All right, so the slate, the draft slate is Juan's chair. John is vice chair, Tim is treasurer, Tricia is secretary, and Dan is park chair. I would entertain a motion to accept that to be forwarded to the full board. Tim, second. Dan, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed or abstain?
Well, I have a question. though.
Yes, ma'am.
If John's going to be vice chair, who are we going to have as an at-large?
At-large members, we'll, once we vote that on the full board, I think, was it the chairs? Who made that decision? I thought it was the chair last
I
year.
think
made
it
it.
is the chair's discretion, so you
Yeah.
gotta wait.
So we'll wait,
Perfect.
because then we gotta do the nominating committees or the committees nominations as well at the full board meeting. So we'll add that to that meeting. Good. All right. Any final comments on nominations forwarding to the full board? We in line, Kara?
I
Good.
think so, yeah.
All right. Any other new business? Right. Any other business? Any public comments? Anybody wish to be heard? Is there anybody that wishes to speak? Having called for public comments 3 times and hearing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting. Dan, second. John, all in favor? Aye. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.